Charlotte, North Carolina, like every major city in the United States and across the world, has one problem in common: traffic. That's right, the traffic in Charlotte, North Carolina can be something that'll cause you to pull your hair out, but that's only if you are in the wrong spot. Not only am I going to highlight some of the areas around Charlotte that have the heaviest traffic and longest commute times, but I'm also going to highlight what causes it, how to avoid it, and the best place that you could probably live to avoid almost all traffic altogether. The Charlotte metro area has over 2 million people in its population. While the area in Charlotte proper has about 1 million, you can probably presume there are a lot of people on the road on a daily basis. Now, since the 2020 era, we have seen less people on the road because a lot of people are working more remotely. However, with the call back to the office and more people moving in the area, over 115 every single day, we are still seeing strains on some of the infrastructure, which includes our roads. Now, while there is traffic, I will still emphasize, as I do every time I talk about traffic, that it is not as bad as what you're going to find in LA, Atlanta, Orlando, New York. We just don't have that volume of people hitting our roads. However, there are some major bottlenecks in and throughout the Charlotte region. So I'm going to show you on a map exactly where these pitfalls are, these bottlenecks, and some of the ways in which you can get around them. Let's dive in. So I figured it was probably best for us to take a look at an actual map so I can show you where these areas are. All too often people talk about areas, but if you don't know the area, you don't know where the traffic is. So we're going to go in order, and I'm going to go from least to probably worst traffic in Charlotte, and you can determine where the best place to live for you is. So starting from one of the least trafficked areas, we're going to head right in here onto I-85. Now, this is I-85 on the northernmost part of Charlotte. So let me get my little cursor up here so you can see exactly what's going on. So here's I-85 headed up into Concord. Now, this area, it does get traffic. Actually, one of our larger it's our third largest place of business. So we've got Ballantyne, which is the biggest business park. We've got South Park, which is the second biggest business park. And our third is right here in what they call University. Now, we do get some traffic flow that's going to go up this way and a little bit down this way. When it comes to the heaviest traffic, you're usually going to see that right coming up here on I-85 until you hit about 485. And that's going to be in the evenings and the afternoons. The other big part for traffic is going to be right here on this exit coming this way. And usually it clears up right about here. And that's just because it's a main intersection for these two to merge. Charlotte has a lot going on. And if you're thinking about moving to the area and want to stay on top of everything happening, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you could be the first to know about all upcoming changes to the Charlotte region. My name's 𝗖𝗀 𝗨𝘀. I am your Charlotte, North Carolina expert. And every day people are giving us calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites, people just like you looking to make the move to the area. So if that's you, drop down into that description. All of our contact information is there, regardless of when you are making the move or you just need some guidance. Be sure to give us a call, a text, an email, and we're here to make your move everything you want it to be, regardless of where you're moving from. All right, that's the whole reason for it. For the most part, if you're going to avoid traffic and want a place that you can avoid most traffic, regardless of where you're driving, I highly recommend, let me get my cursor pulled back up here. I highly recommend living somewhere in this general vicinity. This is where you're going to avoid a lot of traffic in that area. Now, is there still some traffic? Yes, but it is lesser. So for example, if you're living in this area right here, regardless of traffic, whether you go this way or this way into Charlotte, you're still looking at about a 20 to 25 minute commute to the Charlotte area. Honestly, I've done it much faster than that, even with traffic. This little strip right here of 77 gets almost zero traffic. I mean, zero traffic. So if you're looking for that, definitely live somewhere in this area if you'd like the quickest commute into Charlotte possible. There's almost nothing, truly almost nothing. Now, as we look at this map though, this is also where we're going to find some pretty affordable homes. So this lower Huntersville area out here into Harrisburg, the University, or this is University right here. But right over here, they call this right there, Prosperity Village. There's a few different names for it. Prosperity Village, Highland Creek, Moss Creek area. All of this in here is going to be where you're going to avoid your traffic the most. Now, again, There's some, it's just the least amount. And I will highlight, I am talking about if you're headed to the city center. Now, if you're headed further south, we're going to talk about the traffic down here in just a little while. We're just going to focus on what's closest. So if you're trying to get Charlotte City Center, this is going to be one of your best places to live with the least amount of traffic. The other thing I do love about this spot is if you're up in this region right here, you do have multiple avenues to get into Charlotte. So for example, if you're right here, you can come I-85, you can come over and go I-77. Both have different traffic patterns. You could even take some back roads in if you wanted to, but there's a lot of different ways to get in. That is a huge help. So now we're gonna highlight another more heavy traffic area, and this one is slightly unfortunate. Let's talk a little bit about the lake. Now, the lake is absolutely gorgeous. You have hundreds of thousands of people that live in this area. Now, to the west side of the lake, you're gonna have the least amount of traffic. So if you live over here on this west side, traffic is minimal. In fact, right here is gonna be your worst traffic. Right in this little spot, right here and right here are probably gonna be your worst traffic areas. And that's because there's actually a light and you cross over and intersect 485. This would be your route all the way in. Now, the cool thing, like many areas of Charlotte, there's multiple routes. So you could come in this way, pop down 485, come in 85, come in here, come down Berkshire Freeway. There's a few different paths, but for the most part, 16 remains very open until you hit about this point, and then it kind of gets a little bit more crowded. Now, this traffic right here, I would say is about equivalent, maybe even actually slightly heavier than what you're going to find on that I-85 in the afternoons and in the morning. So that says something. But let's talk about the east side of the lake for a moment. This is where you hit your trouble spots, all right? Now, I love Mooresville. Mooresville is a phenomenal place to live, beautiful town, great people, and really affordable. When you are talking about home prices, especially new construction, the home values are low, they're gorgeous. Here's your problem. I-77 is about some of the worst traffic in Charlotte all the way to I-485. That's right. I'm talking bumper to bumper traffic all the way through. Now, what's the reasoning behind this? Biggest reason is because we have so many people, like, because you're probably thinking, well, Denver doesn't have that issue. Why does Mooresville have that issue? There's less people living on the west side of the lake than the east side of the lake. East side of the lake, there are far more towns, more communities, more shopping, more dining, more everything. All right. And on the east side, you've got more of these. Now, this right here, this is on the north side. I'll zoom in just to show you where this is. So this right up here, this is the Point. Now they're all points, right? But that's the name of the neighborhood. That is the predominant neighborhood in here. But as you can see, it's kind of like a long finger that comes into the middle of Lake Norman. So you've got a lot of people that live here. And then you've got the most prominent one here is the peninsula. Again, another little finger that comes into Lake Norman. These equate to a lot of people living in this region. And that's part of one of the challenges. A lot of these people do work in the city center, in Charlotte or the surrounding areas. Sometimes some of them even South Park or Ballantyne, and I wish them luck on that commute. So here's what this looks like. Every single day, it is dark. I should actually change colors here to really, really form this. Dark red all the way down. Now, here's the reason why I don't mark this as the worst traffic in Charlotte, because there's a way out. That's right. There is a TOLL toll lane. That's right. There's a toll lane that runs all the way down. And actually this toll lane continues all the way into Charlotte City Center. So why is it still heavily trafficked? Well, not everybody wants to pay the tolls. Now here's the benefit. The toll is optional, which I like options. I like having the choice whether I want to pay money or not. And most of the time I do. I'm just saying it because sometimes it gets so bottlenecked. I do sometimes take that toll lane. Now, what it looks like is you've got two regular lanes side by side with two toll lanes and a little divider down the center. Now, the cool thing is you can hop on and off every few miles. So you can decide that, okay, looks like on my GPS, the traffic is heaviest from here to here. You could hop on up here, follow it, and then hop back off and take the regular lane the rest of the way in. You have that option. Some folks just get on and ride. Now, if you ride a motorcycle, it is free. If you have 3 or more people in your vehicle, it is also free. Now, I have not tested that, by the way, and I don't know how they track that because it's all easy pass style. but that is what I have read when it first opened. Now, the cost of these do vary. It depends upon traffic flow, time of day, and they do actually put a notice out of what that cost will be. Now, for the most part, I find that the heaviest traffic that I usually see is between right about here and here is pretty heavy. I feel like usually between Gilead Road and this is right here, Samford, this is Gilead. This usually has traffic regardless of time of day. I feel like it's a little bit backed up, but check your Google, check your GPS, see what it says. Now, here's the cool thing about this. Once you get past that, so I'll highlight again, traffic, all the way to literally right here. Once you hit here, the traffic completely opens up and it is open all the way into uptown Charlotte. I have never had to jump on any toll lane here, which is another benefit of being right here. You just hop in and hop down. You're missing all of that northern traffic, which is great. So if you must live on the lake, I recommend if you want to avoid the traffic, be in Denver. If you have the funds that you want to take the toll lane or the time, take this. The other option, hit the road before the traffic starts. That means hitting the road earlier in the morning and earlier in the afternoon. Now, our next heaviest traffic brings us out to I-85 to the west side of the city. Let's take a look at what in the world is going on here. Now, on the west side of the city, you have a few different towns. So right here, you have Gastonia, you have Belmont, which sits right, well, Belmont's right here. You have Cramerton, a few beautiful towns. And to the north, you have Mount Holly, the National Whitewater Center. Now, here is the challenge with this particular area. Now, I'm going to drag us over just a little bit more so I can highlight this because it goes for quite a ways. Here's where you're going to hit this traffic and what in the world is going on. This spot right here is absolutely atrocious. So why is that? Well, there's two things. Let's start in the morning and then we'll go to the afternoon. Now, in the morning time, headed inbound into Charlotte, so eastbound, you're not going to see as heavy a traffic. And part of the reason for that is because the road actually opens up on the way in. It closes up on the way out. Let me explain. You go from 2 lanes on each side of the road to 3 lanes on each side of the road to 4 lanes on each side of the road where the exits start coming in. So it's actually not too bad coming into town. So keep that in mind. Here's where it gets really screwy. This little intersection right here, all right? So where you merge on going this way. So going from 485 onto 85. It goes from a 2-lane coming that way, plus the people coming up this way, which is another 2-lane. That converges down to from 4 to 2. So all these people coming in then have to come into these 2, which then comes down to 1. That's right. You have both sides of 485 that are trying to hit 85 going from 4 full lanes down to 1 lane to merge onto I-85. So already you're going to start seeing traffic building up this way because of those exit ramps. Like usually they can be completely stopped. It's absolutely atrocious. Then it gets better. Once you've merged on, already, of course, you're going to see a bottleneck because you've got 3-4 lanes right here. And then it drops a lane immediately. Then it drops another lane all the way out here. So you're taking all of this traffic from north and south from the 485. You're taking all the additional traffic from I-85 that was already flowing, and you're cramming them all together right here to turn some of the worst traffic in Charlotte to these areas. It's about the roads. The road itself is what truly causes it. There is a high volume. More people are moving out to the Belmont and into the Gastonia areas, even up here into Dallas and Bessemer City for lower cost of living. And there's still obviously the ability to commute, but that's where your challenge comes in. The roads aren't wide enough. We truly need to widen these roads from a simple 2-lane each way into a 4-lane each way, and that would completely eliminate it. Now, granted, I say that like it's easy. Snap of the finger is not going to happen. So how do you avoid this? 1, there are other ways to get into the Belmont area. There's a smaller side road right here that you could take in, which is 74. I didn't go onto it. 74 is a good way. You could come up through Mount Holly to get in. You can go ahead and take some of these smaller back roads to get into Gastonia. Now, here's one of the challenges, however. There's nothing really to the south when it comes to a crossover. This whole area, let me show you, from here all the way down to here, there are 0 crossovers. That's it. That's another one of the major challenges. If you live anywhere out in this area, you must must take either 74 or 85 as a major route, or come up 27 and then cut back down. All right, those are your only ways to get over there, because there's no other roads that cut over. Now, there has been talk in the past to go ahead and take this road right here and continue it through. So there's another way to get into South Gastonia, which would actually populate it quite a bit more. It just has not happened. So to avoid it, either one, don't live in Gastonia, don't live in South Gastonia, but Belmont might be your better bet, because you're still going to have a slightly shorter commute. It'll be even closer to Charlotte, but you're also still at least working with a 4-lane interstate, not 2. So that would be my 2 cents. So for our next worst traffic, we're going to talk about everything South 45. That's right. South 45, right through here. This is going to be some of your worst traffic right in through here. Now, let me explain this a little bit better. The traffic truly starts right around this area. Let me go to my red color here. Traffic truly starts right around this area near Steel Creek, and it'll continue down and through this spot right here. Now, why is this? Well, I will say this. The traffic has gotten better than it once was. Right in through here, it actually used to be a 2-lane on each side. The reason being is this is where 45 began. They started construction on 45 on the lower part of the city. And it's kind of one of those, the population wasn't quite there yet, and they just kind of had to get it done. Well, as they continued upwards and going to the northern part of that scoop, they realized, well, population's definitely growing. We need more lanes. So they expanded that to 4 lanes on either side. Then, just a few years ago, they came back down to this area and they fixed it. We now do actually have 4 lanes on each side for most of it. There's still a little spot right over here that kind of bottlenecks just a bit. I think it's like right through here on the map. But for the most part, it's much better. It is running much better. But here's why we have so much traffic down here. The most populated areas of Charlotte are here. All right, so let me point this out. You've got the intersection for I-77 right here. So anybody coming down this way or in this way to go home on I-77, that's where you're going to hit your traffic. In fact, also people coming up from this way that have to go around in any route, they're hitting 485. Ballantyne, Weddington, Waxhaw, Marvin, all of these areas right through here, heavy populations, which means they're all funneling up into 45 to go wherever they need to go. Now, in addition to this, there's also a heavy population right here that may not work in that area. They might work in Uptown. They might work in Ballantyne. They might even work over here in Matthews. The challenge with that, where do they have to go? You funnel to the major interstate and you go wherever you have to go. So this is a major thoroughfare. Now, they've made massive improvements. This is one of the largest intersections right here on Johnston Road. So they do have dedicated turnoffs for this at this point as well, which has immensely helped. But be prepared. If you're on 485 in the morning or the afternoon, you are going to be sitting in traffic. Now, it might not be as bumper to bumper as, let's say, up near that 85 west that we were just talking about. But the reason why I bring this in as the second most trafficked area for larger interstates and drives is because of the population size. This is consistent, and they're not going to be able to change it anytime soon. It's probably as best as it's going to get for the foreseen future. But as these areas continue to grow and there's more construction being put in, it will probably put a heavier and heavier strain on this South 485 area. Now, the positive side to this, if you stay outside of Ballantyne, your traffic is a little bit more reduced. This road right here, this Johnston Road, this is the main thoroughfare to connect people all the way up from Sun City, which is a 55 and older community, connect them all the way up through Indian Lane and Ballantyne. So people living in any of these areas here, they're going to be going up that road, which means even during the day, the traffic is really heavy. The other spot where is a tough one is Waxhaw right down here. I would cross that one off the map if you're going anywhere into the city for your daily commute. This is a 2-lane road, 1 in, 1 out, all the way up till right about here, which means you're going to be sitting in a lot of traffic with a lot of other people. So if you're wanting to avoid that traffic, stay north of this line right here and you'll be in good shape. Now, the positive side to this, you do have beautiful areas you can live in, and it depends upon where you're working. You may not even have to touch 45, but if you are living in these areas, or if you live north and you have to come down into Ballantyne, take that into account when you leave on your drive. 45 does not have any kind of toll lanes, so you're in it for the long haul. Now, one of the biggest challenges with 485 that we have seen, it is a faster speed limit. It's about 70 miles an hour. I say about because if you're going less than 80, you're probably going to get run over. I joke, but I don't. So that being said, we do have some faster drivers in Charlotte, like most major cities, and we do have the propensity for accidents, whether it be fender benders or larger accidents. They do happen, and a lot of these accidents do happen in and around 485. Now, what the cause of this is, I'm not a statistician, so I would not be able to tell you exactly the breakdown of that. But there are some backups a lot of times, not just from the actual heavy driving, but also from accidents. So that is something that happens. So where in the world can you live that you can avoid that? Well, a lot of that comes down to staying as close to 45 as you can to avoid all of the small traffic on some of these little back areas here, anywhere through this area. The second thing would be living in an area where perhaps you can avoid having to go on 45 or having to work in an area that you have to take 45. That could mean working or living in South Park and driving back roads. It could also mean living up in the northern area and working in the northern area. But sometimes you can't avoid it. Just know the propensity for traffic in this spot is pretty high. And while there are plenty of other small areas in Charlotte that do have plenty of traffic, let's hit the number one on the list. And that is I-77 South Side. That's right. Anything I-77 on the south side of Charlotte. So let me pull this up here. So this is the city center right here. Anywhere from right here all the way down into Rock Hill. You see this red line? It looks like that pretty much all the time. So what in the world is going on here? Why is this the case, and how in the world can you avoid it? Well, one of the nice things about Charlotte is we do have a lot of side roads, all right? So you can cut in and take Park Road or South Boulevard. South Boulevard will be a little bit clustered, or you could kind of go out this way and skirt your way around, or come down some of these other roads, right? There's always another way. That is one of the benefits to Charlotte. There's not always just one way in. However, your fastest, most direct is going to be I-77. Now, the challenge, why it's usually so cluttered, is take a look at this. When you come into South Carolina, there's really only one major road, and it's I-77. I-77 is the main vein that connects South Carolina to North Carolina. Now, we see our Fort Mill and our Rock Hill neighbors, and that includes Tega and all of them. We see them as Charlotteans. We really do. They're a part of Charlotte. But the truth is, there's not many other roads that connect up into Charlotte that aren't also bottlenecked. And the population in this area is growing immensely. Fort Mill is one of the number one, or is the number one school district in South Carolina, which pulls a huge draw. With slightly lower property taxes and similar income taxes, it's definitely become a hub, and some people only want to live there. Now, that being said, though, if you're making that commute on a daily basis into Charlotte, be prepared. Starting at about 3:30 p.m., this starts to fill up all the way into Charlotte. Now, one of the other major challenges with this is this particular section of I-77 is pretty tight. In fact, it's actually 2 lanes out and 2 lanes in. So you're getting a ton of traffic here anyway, because you've got people funneling up from the south side, from this side, coming in this way. I mean, you've got people coming from everywhere. So the challenge is you've got some of the most populated areas outside of 485 that are scooping up into I-77 to get up into anywhere in this region or further north. Do you like my chicken scratch? Isn't that great? You've also got people that are coming from this region who need to get in. Some may come in that way. Some might come down this way. You've got the entirety of South Carolina over this way, which encompasses my head, which are going to take 49 in and then scoop up 77. And then you've got all of South Carolina. So as you can see, you've got almost an entire half or lower half is using I-77 as the main thoroughfare to get into Charlotte. So how do you avoid this? What is your option? 1, hope, pray, send out well wishes that they will expand 77. That would help a lot. Even if it was just a toll lane like they did on the north side, the challenge is it's so densely populated in this region, it's very difficult to expand that road because there's not a whole lot of space to expand to. In comparison, the north side had plenty of green space that they could expand to. Right here, there's like houses lining the side of this. It's gonna be very challenging. So the likelihood is it's not gonna get expanded. So here's where you have to think about if you're living and planning on commuting anywhere into this area. 1, Perhaps go further out here so you can commute. If you have to go to the north side, you can commute 45 outer. If you are still, again, if you're having to come into town this way, maybe live a little bit closer into town anyway, or live up to this northeastern area, or maybe even here in Belmont and instead come in this way. I would say if you did have to come up into Charlotte for a commute, for somewhere you have to work, it would be ideal to not live in these areas south of that line, because that is where you're going to sit. Your commute will probably be at least an hour. And I would say, I'm going to adjust my line a little bit, right about there. South of that line, you're probably potentially looking at an hour-long commute on a daily basis, twice a day. Now, if you don't mind that, or you work off hours, it's not going to be a big deal. But this road right here, almost no matter what, you will sit in traffic. So if you can avoid it by using any one of these other roads like 45 or coming up this way or coming up 74, then I would do it. So I think you have a better understanding of where the traffic is in Charlotte and of course, how to avoid it. My biggest suggestion at the end of the day, pick a place to live that you are going to avoid traffic at all costs if you want to reduce your commute times, or work from home if you have the option. Either way, the traffic isn't nearly as bad as most major cities in the US, and with being the 14th largest city and top 10 fastest growing, Charlotte certainly is still one of the best places to live. If you're looking for more insights on Charlotte, North Carolina and the surrounding areas, including South Carolina, hit that subscribe button. As I mentioned before, I'm 𝗖𝗀 𝗨𝘀, and every single day we're getting calls, texts, and emails from people who are just like you, looking to move to the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So that's you. All of our info is in that description below. Give us a call, a text, an email. We're here to make your move everything you want it to be, regardless of when that move is happening. Till next time, I look forward to showing you around town. So you're making a move. There's a lot of videos that you can be watching, like this one right here, or maybe even this one. Really either one of these, but honestly, watch both of them because they're going to help you make the move. Go ahead, pick one.